Story 1. The last seat at the Vista Theater, Los Angeles, California. I don't believe in ghosts, or cursed seats, or whatever urban legend people attach to old theaters to make them sound edgy. I went to the Vista Theater last Friday night because I needed a break. From work, from people, from everything. It's one of those vintage spots in Los Feliz that still smells like velvet and popcorn grease. I picked the last row, far left corner. Not for drama. Just for peace. The place was nearly empty. Maybe 6 other people scattered across the room. Perfect. The movie was some indie horror flick. Ironic, I know. Halfway through, I noticed movement in the far right corner. Someone stood up. No sound. No phone light. Just stood. Then they walked toward the screen. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Just slow, steady steps. I thought maybe they were going to the restroom or had a panic attack. But they didn't come back. And no one else reacted. I even whispered, "Seriously?" to myself. But the others just kept watching like nothing happened. I tried to brush it off. Maybe they left through a side door. Maybe they worked there. But something about the way they moved, it didn't sit right. No hesitation. No glance back. Just a straight walk into the shadows near the screen. I kept watching the movie, but I wasn't really watching anymore. My eyes kept flicking to that corner. Empty. No movement. No sign of anyone. I even leaned forward a bit, trying to see if there was a door I hadn't noticed. Then I started noticing other things. The sound in the theater felt off, like it was slightly delayed or echoing weirdly. The air got colder too, which I chalked up to the AC kicking in. But it wasn't just cold, it was still. Like the kind of stillness you feel in a room right after someone dies. I looked around. The other viewers weren't reacting. One guy in the middle row was completely motionless. Not asleep. Just frozen. I stared at him for a full minute. No blink. No shift. Nothing. I whispered, "Hey," just to see if he'd react. Nothing. I even tossed a popcorn kernel in his direction. It didn't reach him, but still, no flinch, no glance. That's when I started feeling stupid. Like maybe I was the weird one. Maybe I was imagining things. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 12:41 a.m. No signal. That was odd. I always get reception in there. I tried to open the flashlight app just to scan the area near the screen. The app crashed. Twice. I stood up. Slowly. My seat creaked louder than it should have. I turned to look at the exit doors behind me. They were closed, obviously. But the push bars had a faint red glow, like the emergency lights were on. I walked toward them just to test. Pushed once. Nothing. Pushed harder. Still locked. I looked around again. The credits were rolling now. The screen was bright, casting long shadows across the seats. And that's when I realized I was alone. I turned back toward the rows of seats. Empty. Every single one. The guy I'd been watching earlier? Gone. No sound of footsteps. No door opening. Just gone. I felt my throat tighten. I called out, "Hello?" But my voice sounded wrong. Like it got swallowed by the room. I walked down the aisle toward the screen, scanning every row. No bags. No jackets. No signs that anyone had ever been there. Just me. And the credits still rolling. I reached the front of the theater, near the screen. That's when I saw it. A seat, dead center, front row, was reclined slightly. Like someone had just gotten up. But the cushion was indented. Still warm. I swear to you, I felt the heat radiating off it. I turned around fast, expecting someone to be behind me. Nothing. Just the rows of empty seats. And the last one in the far right corner. The one where that person had stood up. It was now upright. Like someone had sat back down. I backed away from the screen, heart pounding. The silence was unbearable. Not peaceful, oppressive. Like the theater itself was holding its breath. I turned toward the exit again, ready to yell for help. But before I could, I heard something. A soft creak. From the back row. My row. I froze. It wasn't loud, but it was deliberate. Like someone shifting their weight. Slowly. I didn't want to look. I really didn't. But I did. There was someone sitting in my seat. Same posture I had. Same angle. Head tilted slightly to the left. But I couldn't see their face. The shadows swallowed it. I took a step forward and the figure twitched. Just a little. Like it was mimicking me. I whispered, "Who are you?" No answer. I stepped closer. The figure leaned forward. I stopped. It stopped. I felt my skin go cold. My own seat was watching me. I ran to the exit doors again, slamming both hands against the push bars. Locked. I kicked them. Punched them. Nothing. I turned back and the screen had gone black. No credits. No light. Just darkness. The only glow came from the faint red emergency lights, and the reflection of my seat. Empty again. I don't know how long I stood there, frozen. But then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. What? Right behind me. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just closed my eyes and whispered, "Please?" And then, the door clicked. Just once. I turned the handle and it opened. I ran. Didn't look back. Didn't speak to anyone. I got home and locked every door. But I swear, every night since at exactly 12:41 a.m. my phone lights up. No number. Just a notification. Last seat still available. If anyone's ever been through something like this, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 2. The Stranger at AMC Empire 25, Times Square, New York. I don't believe in ghosts. Or demons. Or whatever else people blame when they're too scared to admit they just didn't pay attention. I've always thought those true horror stories were just bored people trying to feel special. That's why I'm writing this. Not because I want to convince anyone, but because I need someone to tell me I'm not losing my mind. Happened last Friday. Midnight showing at AMC Empire 25, right off Times Square. I'd had a rough week and figured a late movie would help me unwind. I picked a seat in the very back row, not for the view but because I like watching people more than the film. Something about the way strangers behave in the dark. It's fascinating. That night the theater was maybe half full. A mix of tourists, couples, loners. Normal. Until it wasn't. About 20 minutes into the movie, I noticed movement near the front. Not on the screen, in front of it. A man in a dark hoodie stood up from one of the side rows. Slowly. Like he'd been waiting for something. He walked toward the screen, not hurried, not sneaky. Just deliberate. I thought maybe he was drunk or confused. But no one else reacted. Not a single person turned their head. He stopped right in front of the screen. Just stood there. Motionless. His silhouette cut into the film like a glitch. I kept expecting someone, an usher, a manager, anyone, to come in and tell him to sit down. But nothing happened. People kept watching the movie like he wasn't even there. I started to feel stupid for caring. Maybe it was part of the show? Some weird promo stunt? Still. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. Just one. For proof. I checked the photo right away. It was blurry but he was there, standing dead center, face hidden by the hood. I zoomed in hoping to catch some detail. Skin tone, posture, anything. But the image was off. The lighting didn't match the scene. It looked like he was lit from behind, even though the only light came from the screen. I took another photo. Then another. Each one felt wrong. Like the angles didn't make sense. I looked around. No one else had their phones out. No one seemed to notice him. A couple in front of me laughed at a joke in the movie. A guy 2 seats over munched popcorn like nothing was happening. I leaned forward, trying to catch someone's eye. Maybe they'd see him too. But it was like I was in a different room. I even whispered, "Do you see that guy?" to the woman next to me. She didn't respond, didn't flinch, just kept watching the screen. I stopped taking pictures after the 10th one. It felt pointless. He wasn't moving. Just standing there, arms at his sides, head slightly tilted. I tried to focus on the movie again, but I couldn't. Every time the scene changed, his silhouette shifted, not his position but the way the light hit him. Like he was absorbing the film. I know how that sounds. Believe me, I hate it too. When the credits rolled, the lights came up slowly. I blinked, adjusting to the sudden brightness. And he was gone. Just gone. No footsteps, no door opening, no rustling of clothes. I stood up, scanned the room. People were stretching, chatting, grabbing their stuff. I rushed down the aisle, checked the front row. Empty. I even asked one of the staff near the exit if they saw someone leave early. They shrugged. Said no one had come out in the last hour. Back home, I plugged in my phone to check the photos. I expected maybe a dozen shots. There were 47. All of the same man. But here's the part one can't explain. They weren't all from my seat. Some were taken from the front row. Others from the side aisles. A few looked like they were shot from behind him, close enough to touch. I never moved. I never left my seat. I opened the gallery and scrolled through them one by one. In some, his hood was down. In others, it was up. His face was never clear, always shadowed, distorted, like the camera couldn't focus. One photo showed him turning slightly as if he knew he was being watched. That one made me drop the phone. Because in the background I saw myself. Sitting in the back row. Staring straight ahead. I deleted the photos. All of them. Or at least I thought I did. The next morning they were back. Same folder. Same order. But now there were 50. The last 3 were pitch black, except for a faint outline. A figure standing in my bedroom doorway. I checked the timestamp. 2:41 a.m. I didn't wake up. I didn't hear anything. But the door was unlocked. I stopped going to movies. I don't sit near exits. I don't take photos in public. I don't even sleep with the lights off anymore. But every night at exactly 2:41 my phone lights up. No notification. No message. Just the screen turning on, like someone's watching. If anyone's ever been through something like this, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 3. The silent exit at Alamo Drafthouse, Austin, Texas. I've always rolled my eyes at ghost stories. People see a shadow, hear a creak, and suddenly it's a spirit trying to communicate. Please. 9 times out of 10, it's bad plumbing or sleep deprivation. That's why I didn't think twice when I saw someone stand up during the movie last week. It was a late-night screening of Messiah of Evil at the Alamo Drafthouse on South Lamar. One of those cult horror flicks with long silences and weird lighting. I was in the last row, dead center. Perfect seat. Perfect view. And apparently, perfectly alone. About halfway through the film, during a scene where the protagonist walks through an empty supermarket, I noticed movement at the far end of my row. Someone stood up. No sound. No rustling. Just rose from their seat and started walking toward the screen. I figured they were bored or creeped out and wanted to leave. But the exit's behind me, not in front. I even glanced back, expecting to see them loop around. Nothing. No footsteps. No door opening. Just me and the movie. I didn't react at first. I mean, people wander during movies all the time. Maybe they dropped something. Maybe they were drunk. But the weird part was how the figure moved. Slow. Deliberate. Like they weren't trying to leave, more like they were approaching something. The screen flickered with pale reds and blues, and for a second I thought I saw the silhouette pause right in front of it, just standing there, watching. But when I blinked, they were gone. I leaned forward trying to spot them. Nothing. No one in the aisle. No one near the emergency exit. I even checked my phone to see if I'd missed a message from a friend messing with me. But I was alone. The rest of the audience was scattered in the middle rows, heads tilted toward the screen, completely absorbed. I sat back, a little unsettled, but not enough to ruin the movie. I told myself it was just a trick of the light. Maybe someone crouched down. Maybe I imagined it. After the credits rolled, I stayed in my seat for a bit, letting the weirdness of the film settle. The lights came up slowly, casting that dim amber glow across the rows. I looked around. Empty seats. A few people were already heading out, chatting quietly. I stood, stretched, and walked toward the exit, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone should have passed me. That figure from earlier. They never walked back. They never left. So I did something I normally wouldn't. I asked one of the staff members, a guy in a red polo with a tired smile, if someone had exited through the front during the movie. He looked confused. Said that wasn't possible. The only exits were in the back, near the lobby. I pressed a little, explained what I saw. He offered to check the security footage, probably thinking I was paranoid or high. I wasn't. I just needed to know I wasn't losing it. We walked to the back office, a cramped little room with monitors stacked on one wall, each showing a different angle of the theater. He pulled up the feed from Theater 4, time-stamped the moment I described. The screen showed the audience from behind, rows of heads barely moving. He fast-forwarded to the supermarket scene. I leaned in, heart thudding. There I was, sitting dead center in the last row. Alone. No one stood up. No one walked toward the screen. The aisle was empty. The seats around me were empty. I asked him to rewind, slow it down, zoom in, anything. He did. Same result. Just me. Sitting there. Watching the movie. I felt my throat tighten. I know what I saw. I know how it moved. I even remember the way the light hit its shoulders, like it was absorbing the glow, not reflecting it. But the footage didn't lie. According to the cameras, I was completely alone. I left the office feeling off, like something had been peeled back inside me. The walk to my car felt longer than usual. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few scattered vehicles under flickering lights. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see that figure again, standing still, watching. But there was nothing. Just the hum of the street and the distant sound of traffic. I told myself it was a trick of the mind, a tired brain playing games. But that night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that slow movement, that silent walk toward the screen. I started wondering, what if it wasn't trying to leave? What if it wasn't even part of the audience? I replayed the moment over and over, trying to catch something new. A detail I missed. A clue. But all I had was that image burned into my memory, and the footage that said it never happened. It's been 3 nights since then. I haven't gone back to the theater. Haven't watched another movie. But something's changed. My apartment feels wrong. I keep finding my living room light on when I swear I turned it off. My couch cushions slightly shifted. Once I woke up to find my TV playing static, volume maxed out. I live alone. I always have. And I always lock my door. Last night I woke up at 3:17 a.m. No reason. Just opened my eyes. And there, in the faint glow from the street light outside, was a shadow. Standing in front of my TV. Not moving. Not speaking. Just watching the screen. I blinked and it was gone. I don't know what I saw at the Alamo Draft House. I don't know why it followed me. But if anyone's ever seen something like this, something that shouldn't be there, something that doesn't leave through the exit, Please tell me. I need to know I'm not the only one. Story 4. The man behind me at Landmark E Street Cinema, Washington, D.C. I don't buy into ghost stories. Not the ones whispered at sleepovers, not the ones dramatized on late-night TV. I'm the guy who rolls his eyes when someone says they felt a presence. So when I decided to catch a weekday matinee at the Landmark E Street Cinema, it wasn't for thrills, it was for peace. Sparse crowd, quiet theater, no screaming kids or popcorn crunchers. I picked the last row on purpose. No one behind me. Just me, the screen, and 2 hours of cinematic escape. About halfway through the movie, some indie drama I barely remember now, I felt it. A shift in the air. Like someone had leaned forward behind me. I heard breathing. Not loud but close. Too close. I froze. There was no row behind mine. I knew that. I checked when I sat down. I turned around. Slowly. Nothing. Just the wall. I laughed under my breath, chalked it up to acoustics or maybe my own overactive imagination. But I didn't relax. Not really. I tried to refocus on the film but something felt off. Every few minutes I'd get that same sensation, like someone was shifting behind me. Breathing. The kind of sound you don't notice until it's too close. I even glanced to the side, wondering if someone had snuck in and was standing behind the row divider. Still nothing. No footsteps. No shadows. Just that low rhythmic breath. I told myself it was the HVAC system. Or maybe someone a few rows down. But it didn't sound distant. It sounded right there. Then came the whisper. I swear it. A voice, low, gravelly, said something I couldn't make out. I turned again, faster this time. My heart was thudding and I felt ridiculous. There was no one. Just the empty aisle stretching to the exit. I rubbed my eyes, leaned forward, tried to shake it off. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I dozed off for a second and dreamed it. But the whisper hadn't felt like a dream. It felt like someone was trying to get my attention. I stayed seated until the credits rolled, arms crossed, jaw tight. I didn't want to give whatever this was the satisfaction of spooking me. But when the lights came up, I noticed something strange. My seat felt damp. Not just a little, like someone had spilled a drink. But I hadn't brought anything. And the cup holder was empty. I stood up slowly, looked down, and saw a crumpled ticket stub on the floor. Not mine. I hadn't dropped anything. I picked it up. The date on the stub was 2 days ahead. Not the day of the screening. Not yesterday. 2 days from now. Same theater. Same seat number. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. Maybe someone had dropped it earlier. Maybe it was a misprint. But the stub was fresh. No creases except the one I just made. And the ink was sharp. I looked around, hoping to find someone who might have lost it. But the theater was empty. Completely. I was the last one out. I walked out into the lobby, still holding the stub. The guy at the counter was wiping down the soda machine. I asked him if anyone had dropped a ticket. He looked up, confused. "Matinee?" he asked. I nodded. He checked the register. "You were the only one in that theater," he said. "No one else bought for that showing." I showed him the stub. He squinted at it, then frowned. "That's not today's. That's weird." He reached for it, but I pulled it back. I don't know why. I didn't want him to touch it. Outside, the city felt colder than it should have. It was early afternoon, but the shadows between buildings looked stretched, unnatural. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting someone to be following me. I even checked my phone to see if the stub matched any upcoming showings. It did. Same movie. Same seat. 2 days from now. I thought about going back then just to see. But something told me not to. Like I'd already been, and shouldn't go again. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment I felt the breath on my neck, the whisper, the damp seat. I even laid out the stub on my desk, staring at it under the lamp. It looked normal. But every time I turned away, I swore it moved slightly. Just a fraction. Like it was trying to align itself with something. I took a photo of it just to prove to myself it was real. But when I checked the image, the date was gone. Just a blank stub. I started searching online, forums, threads, anything about the landmark E Street Cinema. Most posts were about overpriced snacks and indie films. But one comment stood out. Buried in a thread from years ago, don't sit in the last row. Especially not alone. No explanation. No replies. I tried messaging the account, but it was inactive. Deleted. That's when I noticed something else. The timestamp on the comment? It was dated 2 days ahead. Same as the stub. I haven't gone back to that theater. I thought about it. I even walked past it once just to see if anything felt familiar. It did. Too familiar. Like I'd already lived something there I wasn't supposed to. I still have the stub. It's in a drawer now, wrapped in a napkin. I don't touch it. But sometimes late at night I hear that breath again. Not in the theater. In my apartment. Right behind me. I turn. Nothing. But the air feels damp. Like the seat. I don't care if you believe me. I just need to know if anyone else has felt it. That breath, that whisper, that wrongness. If you've ever sat in the last row at Landmark E Street, and something felt off, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one. Because the stub changed again last night. Now it says tomorrow. And I think he's coming back. Story 5. The walk to the screen at Roxy Theater, San Francisco, California. I don't go to theaters much anymore. Not since the thing that happened in Portland. I've tried to forget it, chalk it up to exhaustion, paranoia, whatever helps me sleep. But last Friday I was in San Francisco for work, and I passed by the Roxy Theater. It looked quiet, nostalgic. I told myself it'd be good to sit in the dark for a while, let my brain unwind. I didn't even check what was playing. Just bought a ticket for the late indie screening and walked in. The usher barely looked up when I asked where the screening was. He just pointed down the hall and muttered something about the last door on the left. I remember that clearly, because the hallway was dim and the carpet smelled like old popcorn and mildew. I chose the last row like I always do. Habit, I guess. I like having the wall behind me. Makes me feel safer. The room was nearly empty. Just me, a couple in the front, and someone sitting off to the side. I didn't pay much attention. The movie started slow. Long shots, quiet dialogue. I was starting to drift when I noticed her. She stood up from the far corner. I hadn't even noticed her come in. A long coat, dark and heavy, almost touching the floor. Her movements were slow, deliberate. She didn't look at anyone. Didn't glance at the screen. Just walked forward, step by step, until she was standing right beneath the projection. The light from the film flickered across her back, casting a warped silhouette that stretched across the seats. No one reacted. Not the couple. Not the guy off to the side. I thought maybe it was part of the film, some kind of performance art. But the movie kept playing like nothing was happening. I leaned forward, trying to see her face. But she never turned. Just stood there, motionless, like she was waiting for something. The scene on screen was quiet. A character walking through snow, no music, just wind. And then, I swear I heard breathing. Not from the speakers. From the room itself. Slow, raspy, like someone struggling to inhale. I looked around, but no one else seemed to notice. I wanted to say something, but my throat felt tight. Like I'd swallowed ice. I told myself it was just nerves. Just leftover anxiety from Portland. But deep down I knew that feeling. That cold pressure behind my ribs. Something was wrong. I tried to focus on the movie again, but my eyes kept drifting to her. She hadn't moved. Not an inch. The light from the screen flickered against her coat, making it look wet, like it had just come out of the rain. But there hadn't been any rain that night. I remember that clearly. The air outside had been dry, almost warm. I shifted in my seat, suddenly aware of how quiet the room was. No coughs. No whispers. Just the low hum of the projector and that breathing, steady, unnatural. Then the screen glitched. Just for a second. A flicker of static like an old VHS tape. The image warped and I swear I saw her face, not on her body but in the film itself. Just a flash. Pale skin. Hollow eyes. Then it was gone. The movie resumed like nothing had happened. I looked around again. The couple was still watching, frozen. The guy on the side had slumped forward like he was asleep. I wanted to leave. I really did. But something held me there. Not fear exactly, more like obligation. Like I wasn't supposed to move until she did. She finally moved. Not much. Just tilted her head slightly like she was listening to something behind the screen. Her hair was dark and stringy, barely visible beneath the collar of her coat. I leaned forward instinctively, trying to catch any sound. But there was nothing. No footsteps. No whisper. Just the film still playing that endless snowy scene. I checked my phone for the time. 11:42 p.m. But the battery icon was gone. Just a black screen. I pressed the buttons but it wouldn't wake up. That's when I noticed something else. The exit sign above the door wasn't lit anymore. I could still see the outline but the red glow was gone. I turned to look at the usher's booth through the small glass window in the back, but it was dark too. No movement. No light. I stood up slowly, trying not to make noise. The woman didn't react. She just kept facing the screen, frozen. I took a step toward the aisle, and that's when the projector stuttered again. The film jumped forward, but the sound didn't. It was like the visuals were racing ahead while the audio lagged behind. And in that silence, I heard a voice. It wasn't coming from the speakers. It was low, broken, like someone trying to speak through water. I couldn't make out the words, but they were close. Too close. I turned toward the woman, heart pounding, and for the first time, she moved. Her arm lifted, slowly, like she was pointing at something. Not at the screen. Not at the audience. At me. I froze. Her hand was pale, almost gray, and her fingers looked wrong, too long, too thin. I wanted to scream, but the sound wouldn't come out. I just stood there, staring as the film behind her began to distort. The snowy landscape on screen twisted into something else. A hallway dimly lit with red carpeting. Just like the one outside. I recognized it instantly. And in the center of the frame was the theater door. The one I'd walked through. I backed away, stumbling over the seats, trying to reach the exit. But the door was gone. Just a blank wall where it had been. I turned to the couple. They were still frozen, eyes wide but unmoving. Like mannequins. I looked at the guy on the side. He wasn't breathing. His mouth hung open and his eyes were rolled back. That's when I ran. I didn't look back. I just pushed through the emergency exit, even though the alarm didn't sound. The hallway outside was empty. No usher. No lights. Just silence. I ran to the front desk, breathless, and asked the guy there if the woman in the coat was part of the show. He blinked at me, confused. "Which screening?" he asked. I pointed down the hall. He frowned. "That screen's been closed for renovations all week. You weren't supposed to be in there." I felt my stomach drop. I turned to look back, but the hallway was gone. Just a blank wall with a faded poster taped to it. I left without saying another word. I didn't sleep that night. I keep thinking about the film, how it showed the hallway before I walked through it. How she pointed at me like she knew I'd be there. I've checked my phone a dozen times since. The battery works now, but the time keeps resetting to 11:42 p.m. Every night. Same minute. Same silence. I haven't told anyone else. Not after Portland. But if you've ever been to the Roxy, if you've seen her, please say something. I need to know I'm not the only one.